Hey everybody, I'm Tarl Yarber with Fixated Real Estate. Welcome once again to another episode of Fixated on Real Estate Experts Live. This week, we go into round 2 of the BRRRR strategy. If you missed the last time we did the BRRRR strategy, go check it out in one of our past webinars. We had Brittany Arneson, Thatch Nguyen, and of course, Jay Scott on that episode, and we have them back this time. We went into so much detail on the last episode on the BRRRR strategy, but we didn't get to go through everything about it. In this episode, we get to get into more of your questions. We also get into estimating rehab costs, how to determine what the ARV is, property managers and why they're so important, or even how to figure out what you should rent the property for before you even buy it, how to estimate that correctly. Hard money lenders, credit unions, portfolio loans, conventional loans. We go into all those details on how to qualify for your end of term, your end refinancing that you need for these pesky BRRRR strategy properties. And also we go into analyzing different markets, investing out of state, what you should be looking for, the pitfalls, and so much more. We do these episodes every single week. So check us out on Zoom. When you guys join us for the live webinar, you'll be able to ask questions to us directly, which on this episode, we get into a ton of your questions just for you. So if you want to participate in that, make sure you guys join the live video when we do those every week on Wednesday. And besides that, I'm looking forward to this episode. I love that we have Thatch and Brittany back, including our good friend Jay. You guys are going to like it too as we dive deeper into the BRRRR strategy: buy, rehab, rent, and repeat. Check it out. Hey everybody, I am Tarl Yarber with Fixated Real Estate, and we are live right now on the Fixated on Real Estate Experts Live. And this episode, we are doing a round 2 on BRRRR: buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. If you missed our last one we did on September 30th, it was freaking awesome. We had a ton of questions. We did a lot of deep diving on the first portion of BRRRR, which is basically acquisitions and some of the processes, how it all works, how the overview of it. And we got into so much stuff, so much content that we didn't have enough time to answer all your questions. So we want to spend a little bit more time today on the second part of BRRRR, which is on the rehab and the refinance and even like the tenant side of it. Plus, we have a list of the 90 plus questions you guys asked last time. And we're going to go through some of those. And of course, we will answer the questions, some new questions that you guys have as well. So we're going to spend a lot of Q&A on this one. But before we get started on that, it's been a couple of weeks. I wanted to ask, I'm going to introduce the panelists in a second. And we're going to get into a little short story from Jay, because he did buy a bunch of BRRRRs recently. And Jay's having some interesting stuff the last week on some of them. And I'm loving that he would love to share those experiences with all of you. But before we get started, let us introduce the panel. First, we have Mr. Thatch Nguyen. Once again, welcome back, Thatch, from Thatch Real Estate Group. Thatch, I just wanted everybody to know, like, even though this is only the second time you've been on one of these webinars, you're with me every time I do one of these webinars, not just in my heart, but also
Come on, baby, let's go!
Yes, Thatch is a bobblehead, and yes, he does watch everything I do all the time.
We're watching you,
it's
baby.
Not creepy at all.
We're watching.
Yeah. Always looking out.
He sees us. Always looking out, right? So Thatch, not only does he have his own bobblehead, but he's also the CEO and founder of Thatch Real Estate Group, a Seattle-based real estate investment company and principal of Springboard for Wealth. He is not only a seasoned realtor. I was like, he's not a seasoned realtor. He's not only a seasoned realtor, investor, and developer, but also a proud ambassador of the American Dream. During his 28 years career in real estate industry, he has built over 300 townhomes, multifamily units, and completed over 100 flips. He currently holds 120 rentals, with the goal of owning 1,000 investment properties. Thatch's journey from homeless refugee to multimillionaire taught him that wealth goes far beyond financial success alone. And he has a bobblehead.
Let's go! Let's go!
List.
So Thatch also has a large following on Instagram and this thing called TikTok. So check it out. And we have once again returning from Canada. I said it right this time. It took me a while to practice it. Brittany Arneson. I need Brittany to defend me on this one from the last webinar, but we'll get into that in a second. Brittany Arneson is a 28-year-old who has converted her talent for hands-on work into a strong cash-flowing rental portfolio. She is more popularly known as Investor Girl Brit on her thriving Instagram channel, where she has roughly 160,000 followers. Do you have more than that now, or is it still 160?
Yeah, it's way more. Way past Brandon Turner. That's all that matters.
All right, okay, that's all that matters. So there you can watch her remodel her own BRRRR properties from start to finish and see firsthand that she knows exactly what she's doing. Brittany learned the business of real estate and construction as a small child and bought her first property at age 18 with money she saved up. She then worked on the property herself and learned the business hands-on. And now you got a bunch of properties. You were just remodeling a 12 unit, 14 unit, something like that.
14.
How many units?
14.
14, right? 1-4. 14.
Yeah.
So where is that property located?
It's in a smaller city in Saskatchewan in Canada. Right now I'm finished those renovations, so back in Saskatoon.
Saskatoon. Perfect. So and that's in the center of Canada, right?
Yeah, right in the middle.
Right in the middle. Perfect. So
The coolest spot.
quick side note, we had a lot of fun with Brittany last time because she's from Canada, and apparently there's a few Canadians that took offense to that, but we don't care. So because Brittany thought it was fun, and it's part of the jokes that we do. So stop being so serious. Anyways, Jace,
from Canada, or where are you from originally?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm from Canada.
Okay, so you are from Canada. Okay.
Of course.
For some reason, I thought you were a transplant.
so
Born and raised.
Good for you.
It works. BRRRR. It's perfect.
BRRRR right now.
Not yet, but
And of course, we got Jay Scott, our perpetual guest. He's an entrepreneur, technologist, and investor and advisor. He's host of the Bigger Pockets business podcast, author of 4 Bigger Pockets books, including the book on flipping houses, the book on estimating rehab costs, the book on negotiating real estate and recession-proof investing, real estate investor that's completed over 400 transactions since 2008 and growing, probably almost way up there now, including flipping, buy and hold, multifamily notes. He's done syndication. You guys just did 120 unit or whatever it was in Houston, something like that.
50.
How many units? 150.
But here's the important number.
Who's
I don't care about
counting?
any of that. I don't care about any of that. Here's the important number. 9,851. That is how many Instagram followers I have this moment. If everybody on this call follows me on Instagram in the next hour, I will hit 10,000. So my Instagram handle is jscott_123flip. Everybody on this call has to follow me in the next hour. I want to get to 10,000 Instagram subscribers.
Let's go, folks. Help them out. Let's go.
Do it.
gotta get him there.
Right now, there's a little over 300 of you guys watching us live currently between Facebook and Zoom. So you can just need half, right? So, and I will pay each of you $1 if you don't. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I want him to get the 10,000. So I do selfishly want him to succeed. So that said, we have so much great content to go over today on the BRRRR investing, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. And I want, just before we get into that, I want somebody to give me a quick overview of what BRRRR investing is and very quick touch base. Thatch, you want to take that?
I'll be happy to take it, man. Let me just spell it for them, just in case they don't know how to spell it, okay? So BRRRR stands for buy it. Ideally, you want to buy it as a fixer. You rehab it. After you rehab it, then you go get a renter and you rent it. After you rent it, then you can go refi and get some of your money out, right? Or how much ever you want. And then you take that money you took originally to buy it, then you repeat the process. This to me is an ideal way to buy rental property to keep, fix, and hold. This is the ideal way of doing it because it's less cash and you can actually create instant equity the moment you guys finish it. This is the only way I buy rental property today, period.
Period. Awesome. Thank you, Thatch. So, and you can do that with only single family?
I do that with single family, I do that with my townhouse, and I do that with my apartment buildings.
All right, you can do it with
Pretty
pretty much
much.
anything. And good to go. You can do it with cars.
You get the right car, you can.
I don't know. Yeah, awesome. So buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. We're going to go into that in a lot more detail today. Watch the last episode we did on September 30th. You can also, it is on the Bigger Pockets Facebook page, my Facebook page, and also our YouTube channel for Fixated Real Estate. Check it out, and you can watch the last webinar we did. A lot of in-depth stuff. So check that out now. Now, that said, we are getting into some questions. We spent a lot of time on the front end of the last one. So I want to spend more time on some of the nuts and bolts with BRRRR and considering like the rehab side. Rehab side is kind of a big, huge challenge for a lot of people, especially when they're starting out. So one of the most common questions we get, I know I get it all the time, Jay, you get it all the time, when it comes to rehab and so forth, is how do you even evaluate construction and rehab if you've never done it before, especially if you're newer, right? And for those of you guys more advanced, we'll get into that as well. But if you're newer, like how do you even figure out what the rehab cost is? Because that's a huge component of the BRRRR strategy, is making sure that you got your rehab costs down when you're evaluating a property. So let's see, who do I want? Britt, you do all your own rehab, or do you sub anything out?
More subbing out now, but at the beginning, definitely everything. My partner and I just rehabbed all of it. So, and he's a carpenter, so that made a lot of sense. And then I grew up kind of in the construction world, so it was kind of our background. So we felt pretty comfortable on that side of things and saved a ton of money. So helped us out get quite a few more deals done just by saving that cost.
So then let's talk to the DIY people out there for a second, because I usually don't talk to the DIY people, so that's why you're here. So so as somebody that's doing it yourself for rehab costs, like I wouldn't even know how to evaluate that, to be honest with you. So for those people that are listening to this that say, hey, I'm going to save money to do the rehab myself, what kind of advice can you give those people to kind of like estimate roughly what maybe something's going to take to evaluate rehab as far as cost wise? How did you guys do that starting out, or how do you do it now also?
Well, it's kind of after a while, you just know, like, I'm not good with like the spreadsheets and the numbers. I'm just not that kind of person, but because we've done it so much, we kind of just like have an idea in our head and we can come up with it really quick of an estimate of what it's going to cost. But now that we are hiring out more trades and everything just to scale and move things forward quicker, like that's something we're really wanting to do. So I'm going to have to read Jay's book on that. But like with DIY stuff, it's just cost of materials. And then you have to really weigh out whether your time is worth spending on a lot of these projects. Because some stuff might be worth it, a lot of stuff might not be. So if you're brand new, like maybe start out with some smaller stuff like tile and floor. You could even learn a lot of this on YouTube. So you can learn that stuff and do it yourself, but just be very aware that the time it takes, that's costing you money as well in holding costs and everything. So it's definitely a balance. You don't have to do everything yourself either. Just maybe pick a few smaller things. And if you're brand new, maybe something like painting could be beneficial for you.
I love that. That's really good advice, especially like a lot of us, oh, I'm going to save so much money doing it myself. But then a 30-day project takes 90 days if you're working a full-time job or whatever, like, and then you hate having to go there. And then like eventually you get to the point where you're potentially, right, for some people, they're like, man, I got to go back and now work on this project, and we're not getting it done because we're doing it ourselves.
Yeah.
And has that ever happened to you, or are you just like, I love it, I'm good to go?
Well, I love it for the most part, but now it's just, we have so much going on that it's too much. So definitely stepping back from it a little bit. But like at the beginning, I'd be painting walls and listening to Bigger Pockets and learning so much as I'm doing the renovation work. So I'm saving money, plus I'm learning. And even though it might take a little bit longer, like the cost saved was worth it for us. But like if you're brand new, just like maybe pick a few little small things, because you really want to get these renovations done as quick as you can.
Yeah, it's an investment at the same time. Yeah. So Thatch, you don't do the renovation, your wife does everything. Right? And Cammie, but you have to evaluate the deal, right? So when you're buying it.
Yeah, my job is to find the deal, and then it's my job and my wife Cammie's job to evaluate the deal, right? To make sure if this is a deal that we're gonna fix and flip, or the deal we're gonna actually fix and hold. And then after we think, you know what I mean, is it a flip and a hold, then we'll meet with the contractor, and then we will pick the material that fit to either flip or fit to a BRRRR. So you got to know that in advance, folks. If you're going to meet with your contractor, are you keeping it, or are you holding, or are you selling it? And so her and I do that both.
Got it. And so how do you evaluate then when you're walking your properties and you're looking to even put an offer on a property, how are you evaluating what the estimated rehab cost to put into your equation?
Yeah. So of course, if you're brand new, it would be tough. You might have to go get a contractor to walk with you when you got this property. But when Cam and I, we walk the property, we already know we got to do the roof. We got to do the siding. We got to do the windows. We got to do plumbing. We got to do electrical, those major systems. And we have an idea already. If we got to do all that, and of course the inside, new bath, new kitchen, new flooring, then we have an idea roughly it's going to cost us somewhere between probably $85,000 to $110,000. And then we know we pick the high side. Let's say it costs $120,000. Then we make an offer based on $120,000 when we go make the offer. And then once I get it signed, then I bring the contractor in and we'll fine tune it. And I usually, make it a little higher so that I know that he's going to come in a little lower. So at least I have some buffer in it.
So you're kind of doing it, at least as maybe a piece of advice for people if they're not fully dialed in on their rehab costs, is they can back up by doing an inspection period or something, and then they can maybe put an offer in based on what they believe their rehab cost is going to be, and then fine tune it during inspection,
right.
If they have that, right?
Yeah.
So,
if you knew,
Jay,
you're gonna have to probably bring in a contractor a few times in your free project, so you have an idea roughly what it's gonna cost to do a minor rehab or a major rehab, and you're gonna know once you do a few of those, and you have an idea.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So Jay, you and I've actually done videos on this and discussed this more than once at different times. So what kind of advice besides, wait for it, besides people buying the book on estimated rehab costs by Jay Scott, right?
Okay.
Which, by the way, I'm mentioned in this book, so kind of a big deal.
You helped me write that.
I literally helped you. So what kind of advice can you give other people for estimated rehab?
Yeah, so here's my advice. First, it's not going to be easy. The way you estimate a renovation is you first get a list of all the things you need to do, and then you assign prices to all those things, and then you add up the prices, and that's how much it costs. There's really no shortcuts, but I am going to give a few tips. Number one, that first piece is you need to create that list of all the things that need to be done on your renovation. Here's the best way to do that. 2 parts. First half of that list are the things that you have to do because they're broken, the things that you have to fix, the things you may not even know about because they're hiding behind walls or they're not up to code. So the first thing you do is you bring in an inspector, and the inspector does a full house inspection. He gives you an inspection report that lists all the things that are broken on the house. He's going to tell you need GFIs in the kitchen, your water heater's too old, your roof needs to be replaced, you have old wiring, whatever it is, the windows don't open, and he's going to give you a whole list of things that are broken. So you have to add all those things to your list, or you have to be willing to, when you go to resell the house, to tell your buyer, hey, I know about this broken thing that I didn't fix. You have to disclose it. But I prefer to just add all those things to the list. The second thing you have to do is you have to figure out all the cosmetic things you have to add to the list, the things that aren't necessarily broken, but you want to fix. So maybe you want to replace the flooring, or you want to replace the doors, or you want to replace the lighting and plumbing fixtures, or you want to replace the appliances or cabinets. You have to add those to the list. So then you have your list of stuff that's broken, you have your list of stuff, and for that stuff that you just want to replace, find a great real estate agent, find a good stager, find a good designer, find another investor that can walk through and say, these are the things that you should upgrade. Once you have the list of things that are broken and the things that the cosmetic stuff that you want to replace, you put that into one big list, and then you have to figure out the material and the labor cost. For materials, you can walk up and down the aisles at Home Depot and figure out how much that costs. For labor, bring in contractors, get bids, add up the labor, add up the materials, and you're done. And I know that I made that sound a whole lot easier than it is, but it really is, it's a methodology. And so again, bring in an inspector, bring in an agent, create your list, walk the aisles at Home Depot to get your material costs, call contractors to get your labor costs, add them all up, and there you go.
Perfecto. Easy peasy, right, everybody?
So
yeah, I can tell you right now, this is the one topic I avoided for years.
It's not easy. It's simple.
Oh, I hated construction. If you told me I had to learn all the crap I know about construction when I started out, I probably would have never done it, just because I've been like, I don't want to learn that. And I just would have never started real estate investing probably. I'm happy I did, but
this is important. You don't need to know how to do it yourself. You don't need to learn how to install sheetrock or replace a roof. What you need to know is, one, obviously you want to know how much it's going to cost, but you also want to know what it takes to do it correctly, so that when your contractors are doing it, you can say, he knows what he's doing, versus, he's not. And to do that, go to Brittany's Instagram page because she does these things herself. And literally I learned by watching her videos to see how she does stuff. So I know how my contractor should be doing things because I know she's doing things the correct way.
Thanks, Jen.
Let's hope she is doing the things a great way.
I want to add, Carl, I want to add this.
Go Thatch.
It's also important that you got, when you look at the property, based on how much you're going to pay for the property and what you think is going to cost, you got to know in advance, like I said earlier, does this number fit as a something you're going to fix and hold, or these number doesn't fit to hold? It's got to be a fix and a flip. Because if you know which way you're going to exit, then you're going to actually pick the material that's going to help you determine, right? Because different material go into a keeper and different material go into a flip, okay? And of course, I want to add also—
Depending on who you are, Thatch, because I just want to add one thing to that encounter. My materials are the same. So whether I'm holding it or flipping it, the only thing I switch is my flooring.
Yes, I agree.
I switch to LVP ones to keep, but I would add that it has to do with your comps. So like
I agree.
and the only reason why I'm saying that is that like what messes people up is when they go to get the appraised value and they put rent ready finishes, but they compared it to fix and flip quality.
Totally
and they're like, oh, okay, well, I bought it because of the flip ARV, but it's a rental, and now my appraisal comes back down, right? Instead of
that's right.
basically
And sometimes,
sorry to challenge you.
Not too many things that change. Like, on a flip, you might spend, $7 a yard on carpet. On a rental, you might do cheaper carpet. But most of my rental is all vinyl planks. The plank package is a little bit less expensive than the more expensive stuff. You know what I mean? But you don't change much. But you got to know that, because the cost of finishing a flip or a hold is a little bit different. Okay. So this is something you got to know. And you got to do it a few times. You got to screw it up a few times for you to really get it, what Jay just said.
So that's it. Let's go. We could spend a lot of time on construction. I think we're going to. And we're going to spend a little bit more time on that for sure, because there's things that come up with how do you evaluate a little bit more? What are some best practices if you've never done this before? If you're advanced, like you can get into a whole thing about how to build your own scopes of work and your pricing sheets. I would recommend to anybody that's out there buying today, but has not bought in a little while, to make sure that you're increasing your rehab cost budget. And the only reason why I'm giving that advice is because material prices have definitely gone up quite a bit. And there's a high demand for contractors right now because everybody's home doing remodels, right? And there's equity in people's houses, so they're pulling it out to do remodels because they want to stay at home, right? And do things they never thought they could do. So Home Depot is super up in material costs. A stick of wood was usually $2 with Home Depot, now it's $6, right? It's crazy. So,
and there are things that you'll have trouble finding these days. So things like appliances. So we've had houses where literally we've had to wait weeks to get appliances. We're buying appliances 10 at a time when they come in because we don't know the next time they're going to come in. So not only are things getting more expensive, some things are pretty scarce.
Yeah, and order those appliances early. If you already got a project, if it takes you 4 months, order it early, get it in.
Yes, and store it someplace safe. So that's good. If you got, we have a house, like if you actually go right now on my Instagram account, you'll see a house we just bought. I would not store my appliances in there right now. Like, I just want to say that. So I would put it someplace else if I bought them early. Has everybody had stuff, actually on a side note, have any of you guys had your projects broken into before?
Not in a while.
Yeah.
Not in a while? No?
It used to happen a lot.
It's very neat.
Like after 2008, it happened a lot. People stealing copper.
Brittany, do you have copper? Yeah. And it depends on where you're from. Like, I know we did a bunch of flips in Arizona. We had people stealing ACs all the time, like air conditioning, because they're on the outside, they could strip them. So we had to start like drilling in these cages and stuff to protect them. Is there even any crime in Canada, Brittany, or no?
Well, I had a break in and it was my own house, not to like, and I was there.
Could have been a bear.
Oh,
It was
yeah. Yeah, it was a bear in a costume. That was a human. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's spend some more time on the construction in a little bit, but let's go move on to the refinance part of the property. So, because there's a whole topic on construction management, how to schedule contractors out, like how to pick finishes. Those are huge things. And so and I think we'd all agree on the panel when it comes to construction is your finishes should be geared towards your ARV for the comparables that you're pulling for their property. And so that's a huge thing. And so And if you don't know how to pick finishes, like I didn't know how to pick finishes, I didn't even know what Instagram was, but like at the time, but I would just go to other flips and see what they did and then steal their ideas. So I did that all the time. So let's go into the refinance part because that's a huge part. Actually, no, let's go into the rent part because it's rent refinance, right? So when it comes to tenants, we're going to get into screening, but before that, how do you even evaluate what the comparable should be for the rent? Like, how do you even know what it should rent out for? Because you're buying a crappy ass property in theory, right? And so how do you actually figure out, and maybe today it might rent out for $1,000, but how do you know it might rent out for $1,800 later? Like what do you guys do for that? Brittany?
For me, I guess like looking on comparables online, so I'd go Kijiji or, well, ours is Kijiji, it's like Craigslist in the States, I guess, but on Facebook and kind of just look at comparable houses and figure out what they're renting for. And it doesn't jump up so crazy in my area, so like that few months won't make a big difference. Another way I also do it, because if I'm evaluating a different city, I'll actually post like a ghost ad and then just say like, and maybe even pictures from another property of ours, and then just post like, see at this price point and see like how many messages you get. So that's a way I've kind of deciphered whether the rent is kind of worth the purchase. So yeah, that's.
I've never heard somebody do that where they put a false ad out to test the market. That's interesting.
It works really, really well. And if you get like 20 messages, it's like you could even increase the rent, or like, you have, you're going to have a good pool of renters.
Love it. That's a good piece of advice. Thatch, do you know how you find your renters or how you know what you need to evaluate your rental prices, or should we get Cammie on here?
Cammie and I, we have my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, they manage all of our property. And so they keep tab on what the market is, but we also keep tab on it because when we buy a property, you guys, since we know we're going to do a BRRRR, and if we get these BRRRR where it's producing 30% margin, that means I can pretty much pull all my soft costs, my initial down payment out, and I can finance 100% of the purchase price and the rehab price. If I'm going to finance 100% of my deal, what I realize is I got to make sure I buy the property in the area where I can actually have the rent cover the mortgage and at least $500 positive cash flow. So the BRRRR for me, if I'm going to keep it, it has to meet 30% margin for me in Seattle, but it also has to be in the area where the rent's high enough to finance 100% of that deal. So there's only so many areas in Seattle where I can actually make that formula work in Seattle for me. So since I know the area, I study that area and I know what market value is for the house and I know what rent value is in that house. And usually when I buy, you guys, I try to buy homes that are 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and then I rehab it to a 4-bedroom, 2-bath so I can create that 30% equity. So then I realize I'm going to do that. Then I look in Craigslist and I see what is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath rent for in this area. And that's how I know, okay, if this is going to rent for this much, $3,500, then I make sure that whatever I do, I'm going to buy a property right, make sure I put the right rehab in it. I get 100% when I get to add the purchase price and the rehab. I do the math and I know if rent go for this, I know I can make the two match. And then that's how I know that's a perfect BRRRR for me. So that's how
what happens if what do you do then when you're done with the project and let's say you can't cash flow what you thought and you can't get the rent you wanted, but you still got the equity? What would you do?
Absolutely. So I had
what would you do?
I thought the rent was going to be $3,500, and by the time I got done, the highest I got was $3,200. I was $300 short, but I got 30% equity in each property, so it didn't mind. So I keep it, and then I would just leave a little bit of money in it just to make the offset, so I can at least get $500 or more. But I also buy an area where I know that if I get less in rent, I'm still going to keep it because the area has good appreciation. So when I'm entering in the property.
So you're looking at the full equation.
Yes, I am. That's right. And the three equations for me is
looking at, so it's
30% margin, high rent, and good appreciation in that area. And if it meets those three area, then I'm gonna fix it and I'm gonna hold it. Even if
and you're specific. I know what Yeah, and I know exactly where you are in Seattle. Like, so when you're looking at it, like so you niched out saying like, I'm doing these areas and these communities because I know that I have the best chances for what I'm looking for. So you niched out saying, even I'm looking for these type of properties with these type of value adds that I know I can build into it, and I can convert a 2-1 to a 4-2 because maybe it has an unfinished basement or it has attic space, like all those things, but you know those areas super well. So it makes it a lot easier for you to handle versus like, maybe somebody is in bigger, broader areas, huge area everywhere, and they're not. It's hard for them to become an expert in any one spot. Right? That's kind of what you're doing? It sounds
And
like.
I would say to you guys, if you newer, as you are, everybody who's new always have a broad, scope. As you spend time doing it, just start to realize and be conscious. Oh, this area over here is good for fix and flip. This area over here is good to fix and hold. Once you know that, if you ever want to go buy a rental property, go after that area and prospect and find those properties, because you find them, it's going to be fix and hold. So as you work in it, just know the area, so you know what you buying.
Perfect. So, Mr. J. Scott, you just bought a portfolio of BRRRR properties.
Yeah.
But you guys got to fix some of the up, increase rents, that kind of stuff. But how are you guys evaluating what the rents are going to be post construction? So with your ARV.
Open up an email. I type in my property manager's name and I say, hey, I'm getting ready to buy this property. How much will you be able to rent it for? And within 2 hours, they send me back a number. Now, let's say I'm moving into a new area. So just like everybody else on this call, let's say you don't have any properties yet, you want to do that, or let's say I'm moving into a new area. What I'm going to do is, one, I'm going to research property managers. I'm going to find 5 or 10 of them. I'm going to talk to other real estate investors and say, who are you using for your property management? I'm going to go on Facebook. I'm going to ask in the Facebook groups. I may even do an internet search and just see who the big ones are. And then I find a property that I'm thinking about buying. I'm going to send this property to all of those properties. I'm just going to send an unsolicited email saying, hey there, I'm new to the area. I'm going to be buying some properties. This is the first one that I'm thinking about buying. Here are some pictures of another property I did so you can get an idea of the level of rehab that I do. How much do you think I could rent this out for? And I'll send that out to 5 or 10 or 15 different property managers. Several of them, if not all of them, are going to write back with a number. And I'm going to start to see which ones are on the low end. I'm going to throw those away. I'm going to start to see which ones are outliers on the high end. I'm going to throw those away. And I'm going to see a bunch of them that are kind of bunched in the middle. And that's going to be my market rent after I'm done. And now, because I've seen which property managers I feel like have comfortably settled in the middle and a nice conservative but realistic number, that's now going to be my pool of property managers that I'm going to go and interview and talk to and find one to manage the property once I have it renovated and ready to rent.
Love it. So I love that you also said, like, I just send an email to my property manager and I wait, right?
Yeah.
That's that's a great answer.
If somebody knows more than your property manager about how much a property is going to rent for in your area, get a new property manager. Nobody should know more about what a property is going to rent for. It's just like if somebody can tell you a better ARV than your real estate agent, you need a new real estate agent. That's one of their biggest jobs.
Yeah, and just like a real estate agent, like Thatch, you know the core areas of Seattle better than anybody, right? But do you know Lacey, Washington super, super well?
I don't.
No,
And
right?
that's why
Yeah, Lacey, Washington is like 50 minutes south.
right. That's why I say there's a lot of business in your own backyard, right? Really master and know your market area, understand the material people are doing, ARV in the area, rent in the area, and just kill it in that area.
Yeah, and to that point, like if you're an expert in your area, a property manager is the same thing. They might be an expert in their area, and just know you might need a different property manager for a different area, right? Yep. So depending on what you're looking for, so not all shoes fit, right? So that's another thing I've learned being in different markets is that you can have somebody that's like, oh, they are awesome at this property over here as a property manager, but for some reason they're all over the place with this property that's 50 minutes south. I thought it'd be the same, right? But you might need a different group at that point.
And you also might need a different property manager for 2 properties that are literally right next door. If one of them is a Section 8 tenant and the other is a nicer rental with a retail tenant, you might want 2 different property managers because there's property managers that specialize in Section 8. and they'll probably get you a renter a lot faster than the other one. So always consider using different property managers when you need to.
Absolutely. So perfect. So I send a text message to my wife and then I wait. So that's what I do. So like, what can I rent out for? I don't know. But she tells me. But I mean, in reality, there's so many tools that everybody has. If it's not a property manager, maybe even a realtor, maybe even Craigslist or whatever you said it was in Canada. Sorry, I got in trouble for that last time. Canada.
GG.
And the GG.
Kijiji.
Kijiji. I look at Zillow, to be honest with you. I do that a lot because it'll just give me an estimate rental. And I'd be like, well, it's going to rent for probably at least that if it's fixed up. So can we get better? Have any of you guys found that you get higher rents than you thought you would originally get after you're done fixing the place up?
Yeah, I have. My townhouses. I mean, when I got done my townhouses, we thinking probably 3,000, 3,100, and surprisingly, we got 3,500, and it's still staying strong during this pandemic. So which is a blessing, because it's in city, but it's new. So, but that don't happen often, folks.
Yeah,
depends. We just got one rented in a new area that we started renting in, and the property manager said we should expect around 1,050 in rent, 1,050 in rent, and the day we went to put it on the market, they said, "Oh wow, I didn't expect the finishes to be this nice. You're going to get closer to 1,200," and we ended up getting 1,175.
Perfect. So good thing you didn't buy it. I think it was 1,200. You have to fire the property manager now.
Well, they told us they told us the low number.
They promised low and over delivered.
They did.
Perfect property manager. So what about what if the shit hits the fan, like in a sense, like what if you have a property that you thought you can rent out for, I don't know, let's say 2,400 in Tacoma, Washington, and it doesn't rent out for that. And now, you have to lower the rent. What do you do in situations like that? Or how are some things that maybe somebody that thought they can rent a house out for 2,400 in Tacoma, Washington, that's not getting that for some reason, what they can do to maybe mitigate that in the future, or what they should do now potentially with that property if they're not getting the rent they thought they can get?
One thing I'd say is maybe furnish, because for our furnished rentals, we get way more than what it would be unfurnished. So that's maybe an idea, either Airbnb, but even our furnished rentals, we rent them out still longish terms, 3 to 6 months, and a lot of the time it's just people working, so they don't want to have to move furniture, and they'll pay a way higher rent price rather than staying in a hotel. They want to stay in a nice house, furnished, and so that's a way to get a little bit more rent.
I like that. That's a good idea.
Yeah. For me,
what if you already go ahead?
No, for me, if that happened, which happened to me in the past, you gotta have some liquid cash flow. You're gonna play the rental business game. You gotta have reserve. Nobody talk about reserve. You gotta have reserve because you never know when the storm is gonna come, like right now. So you gotta either leave some extra money in the property that will basically help balance out. And if you don't have the money, just make sure you have enough equity when you get these property. So if it doesn't meet the rent, then just go ahead and put it up for sale and sell it and go find a better one to keep.
I like that advice. What about what kind of reserves is a normal amount somebody should have? I mean, because this is actually for lending purposes. This is important, by the way. So this is kind of a lending question and also a, worst case shit hits fan, answer as well. But what's a typical reserve amount somebody should probably have before they keep a property for rent, especially a BRRRR? Jay, any thoughts on that?
My rule of thumb is, what is my rule of thumb? My rule of thumb is, if it's the first property you have in an area, or if it's your first property overall, I'm going to take the higher of two numbers. I'm going to take 3 months of rent, or the single biggest repair you would ever have to do on that property. And for a lot of properties, that's a roof or an HVAC system. So let's say I have a property that I'm renting out for $1,500 a month. I'm going to either keep in reserves $4,500 a month, or whatever the cost is for the single biggest repair on that, which might be a $6,000 roof. If it's a $6,000 roof, then I'm going to keep 6,000 in reserves. And so that's going to cover that single biggest cost. It's also going to cover at least 3 months of lost rent. It's not going to cover both of those, but I'm going to hope that I don't get really unlucky. And that's going to cover everything else in between. If I then have more properties, then it gets a little bit more complicated. Typically speaking, at 2 properties, I'm going to take that same number for both of those properties, but then take 50% off. For 3 properties, I'll do a higher divisor, whatever it is. And so I'll start to scale down. So I'm not going to keep twice that for 2 properties and 5 times that for 5 properties. But I want to know that in general, if the worst case situation happens, I lose 3 months of rent, or I get the biggest repair issue I might expect, that I can cover that.
Nice.
You'll also find that once you have a certain amount of BRRRRs, or not BRRRRs, but just loans on your credit report, at least in the US, and you're still going conventional, your lenders are going to start requiring you to have higher reserves.
Yes.
And they're going to require proof. And it might be like 6 months rent, right? So, or 6 months, 6 months mortgage payments and stuff. So depending on how many you have, if you have 5, I think it's right once you get to like 4 or 5, like your reserves start to go up. And once you get past 6, they really go up, and they really want to see that. And portfolio lenders are the same way. That's your credit unions and so forth too. They're going to expect reserves in your account. So if you're broke and you got nothing, then it's hard to keep these on the refi side.
Yep. And keep in mind, if you have 3 months of rent in reserves, that's generally going to be at least 6 months of mortgage, because your mortgage should be less than half your rent.
Yeah. And I just want to add this right
I've
now.
been doing this wrong this whole time.
You guys see, as you're listening out here, this is a whole different mindset and whole different responsibility on keeping rental versus fix and flip. You don't even need to have this conversation when you fix and flip. Nobody even have these conversations. But if you're going to actually own rental, these conversations we're having is very important, because if you don't have reserve, folks, I'm telling you, 1 to 2 months of those properties go vacant, it will eat you up so fast, and then you never want to own rental property again.
Yeah, if you screw up on a fix and flip in 3 or 6 months, you're licking your wounds and you're moving on. If you screw up with a rental property, you could be licking your wounds for the next 5 or 10 or 20 years.
Right.
Yeah, well, a flip can make you go bankrupt too. I just want to throw that out there. So,
then you did something wrong.
well, really wrong, right? At that point. Speaking of which, like, Brittany, have you ever lost money on any of your deals yet?
Not yet.
No?
Hopefully not.
Not yet. No.
We'll see. Time might come.
Let's inspire some people, right? Thatch, have you ever lost money on anything?
Oh man, I tell you guys, learn from people who actually done well, and then learn from people who actually made mistakes, because you can learn a lot from that. I have lost money on single family flip, and I also lost money on big giant apartment building. My biggest loss is my 251 unit apartment building, where we lost probably over $3-4 million on one deal. A lot. Okay. But again, when you do 250 unit, you're talking about a $50 million project. I mean, $3-4 million is a lot, right? But it's very small in a big building that size, But that's why I said, even in the world construction, guy, you got to have reserve. And reserve is one of those kind of things. Is a lot of people never think about it, because they think short term, in out. But when you play rental property, you got to have reserve. My mentor said to me when I was younger, he said, have a go to work up to having always $1 million liquid cash always around. That's the standard you want to have.
Whew, that's a lot of money.
A lot of money.
And then it's, unfortunately, there's no book out there that says how to become ultra successful in real estate in 15 to 20 years. It's how to do it now, right? And nobody
would buy that book.
Right?
Nobody's gonna buy
FORE.
that, right? Yeah, like how to make lots of mistakes on your path so that you can become ultra awesome and successful 10 years.
Hey, that might be a new book. You got, we all have to come together and make a chapter out of it.
Yeah.
We can totally do that. Like,
Right?
so I hope nobody has the mistakes that you had, Thatch, with that big of a loss, but I do hope people make mistakes and learn from them. And like, that's how I knew I grew and changed my business. And every one of you guys on the panel, we all made mistakes in this business. And I think those are what's probably adapted us the most in our business to be where we are, is because of those mistakes. And so my only advice to people listening to this or watching this is that you're going to make a mistake, right? And it might make you be a analysis paralysis or stop because you're afraid of making mistakes, but just know you're going to. You don't want to make a $2 million mistake or a $3 million mistake. You can avoid that. That's why you start small, right? But start in the right direction if you can. So, all right, so let's get into some of these Q&As from some of our listeners and watchers, or whatever we want to call these people. Let's see, we have, here's a refinance question. How do you refinance out of these properties when you don't have a W-2 job?
Ooh.
First question. Sorry, before we get into that, does anybody here on this panel have a W-2 job? Like an actual W-2 job. Like I get a W-2 from my company, right? But that's because I have to. But trust me, we don't pay myself enough to qualify for a loan, right? When it comes to the W-2.
Let's be clear, Tara. We know nobody would hire you.
Nobody would. No, I am psychologically unemployable. So that's what I like to say at least. So first off, none of us have real W-2 jobs. I just want to throw that out there. But we all get loans, right? So but besides that, we also have credibility. We have relationships. But how do you start if you don't have the relationships that maybe we have? How would somebody get a refi?
Let me start with this one.
Okay.
So typically when we think about a BRRRR refi, we often think about conventional lending. We think about going to a bank and getting an FHA loan, or not FHA, but a HUD loan or a Fannie Mae loan. And they're going to require, anytime you get a conventional loan, you go into a big bank and get a loan, they're going to require 2 years worth of tax returns. So you may be able to do that after a couple of years of being in the industry, and you should, because there are some good conventional lender investor loans for individuals. I mean, 30-year fully amortized loans. So take advantage of that. But in the first couple of years, you need to find banks that are willing to lend to you without those requirements of 2 years of tax returns. The best way to do that is to find the small local banks, what are called portfolio lenders. Portfolio lenders are the banks that they don't sell their loans necessarily to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. They hold their loans in-house. They create their loans using their depositors' money, and they get to define their own criteria for who to lend to. And a lot of times they're going to be happy to lend to you based on the asset, based on your credit score, based on what income you're generating in your investment business, even if you don't have 2 years of self-employed tax returns. So go start building those relationships with portfolio lenders in your area as soon as you possibly can. Because if you need to get a long-term, or not a long-term, but if you need to get a refinance before that 2 years is up, that's going to be your absolute best bet.
Perfecto. So anybody else want to add to that, Thatch?
Yeah, I say.
Well, you disappeared. You don't even know.
No, I heard the question though. Yeah, there's a couple of things that you got to remember when you got to do BRRRR. You got to make sure you got good credit and you got income, some reserve the bank might ask for you guys to be able to refinance and keep it as permanent financing. So make sure you have that before you got to think about, I'm going to keep this property. Because by the time you get done, you don't have good credit or income to support it. You're going to have to flip it. But yeah, it is tough, man, to get a BD loan if you don't have some kind of W-2, income, either from self-employed or from somebody else.
It really boils down to where, if you're starting out, and yes, if you have limited to no income, and your credit is unfortunately a challenge, and your tax returns can't prove what you have going on for you, even a portfolio lender, and even some of those institutional lenders out there that are like hard money lenders that do long term, even though they might do asset-based lending, where they're looking at the asset itself, when it's a single family, yes, they are looking at that single family home, but they are still looking at you. And it's important sometimes to go, okay, maybe we have a partner, a credit partner, for lack of a better word, somebody that can be in the deal with me that can possibly qualify for the refi and work. But then you're in a partnership, so you got to be with somebody that you're cool with, right? And there's I got a whole bunch of stories of that crap. So, but I don't want to get into that too much right now. We have a recent partnership issue with a property that we own with somebody. Ugh, so pissed. Anyways, but at the same time, like, you might have to sit there and wholesale for a little bit, make some other income and show that you have provable income for a period of time. Like for us, when I went full time in my company, fixated, right? A conventional lender wasn't going to give me a loan until I had fixated for 2 years, right? Because it was my sole source, even though in the past I was working on a completely different thing as an independent contractor. It doesn't matter, but they needed to see that in order to go conventional, right? So we had to do that, right? It took time to do that. But sometimes you don't have to if you're going portfolio or institutional, if you have the relationship. But if your credit also sucks and you have no income and the property's not good, and like, there's a lot of equations too that you got to look at. So anyways, there's ways to do it though, for sure. Brittany, do you got anything to add for Canada? Because one of the things that I saw for Canadians is, for some of the questions, is that I heard from you last time you were on here that you had a super low interest rate for your multi-unit.
Yeah.
But I've also seen questions from people saying that they're getting like 6 or 7% interest rates for their single family. So I'm super confused what rates are.
Yeah.
I don't know, right? So I'm asking you, the professional in Canada, but they were on the coast, so I don't know if it's different in the middle. But so what's it like getting a loan there?
Well, I mean, they have a stress test now for Canadians, so you do have to have a certain percentage of cash in your bank account, which makes it a lot more difficult now for financing. So that is another challenge, and it is difficult to get financing here. I don't know if you guys have a limit, but for our big banks, like our A-lender banks, like the BMO, Scotia, TD, that's kind of what they're called in Canada. But they do 3 to 6 doors, typically like 5 doors per person. And then beyond that, you might have to go to the B lenders. That's what we call it. So like the other banks they have higher interest rates, and you have to put 25% down, but you can get up to 9 mortgages with them in your names. I think it's really, really important too to get a good mortgage broker on your side. So we have one who structured it in a way, like right off the bat, that we could get multiple mortgages, and she was really good to work with. So it's something to look at. Someone who can really figure out, someone who knows the investing side of it and can really like structure it in a way that you can keep moving forward.
So how did you guys develop your relationships with your lenders?
For me, I guess like I asked so many, especially at the beginning, I had to go to tons of different banks and tons of mortgage brokers, and kind of, because I was new, like when I was first starting getting mortgages, I was 21, and I didn't really, like, eventually I did have a power engineering job, so I was able to get one loan, but before that it was like really difficult. So I had to go to a bunch of different banks and mortgage brokers and just kind of find the right one and ask a lot of questions. But it takes time. Got to interview them.
Yeah, for
So
me.
what about on the purchase side? Go ahead, Thatch.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for me, I was fortunate because I was selling real estate, so I had a lot of lender that would hit me up, and I used them for my client, and I realized how good they was. And so when I was ready to buy rental property, I used them to buy rental, but they only can do 10. Once I get beyond 10, I got to use a portfolio bank. And how I mess up my portfolio banker is that when I was using hard money lending to actually buy these fixer-upper, and I told them I'm keeping it. And then those fixer-up those hard money lending, they have a lot of relationship with a lot of the portfolio bank out in the community. And then they say, hey, you're going to keep it, go talk to this bank right here, because we do a lot of business with them for other things. And then that's how I got into a lot of other portfolio bank around Seattle. So it's a relationship kind of game.
It really is a relationship kind of thing. And we had a question earlier, I think from last episode that we did, is how do you know who's the best hard money lender to use, and how do you know if they're legit? So this would be more for like on the purchase side in your area. Like I know, for us, we have local ones and we have national ones, but there's also a lot of people that are a lot of lenders out there that you probably shouldn't use that are hard money lenders. But how do you vet them, I guess? How do you vet a good hard money lender for the purchase side? And how do you know if they're good? How do you know if they're the right fit for you on your purchase? Jay, you've advised for hard money, but do you have any thoughts on that after you unmute yourself? This is like your first one, dude. Like, I swear, like every little thing you're doing, you got your phone ring earlier. You couldn't get your mic to work right.
I forgot to turn on my light. Yeah, this is, and now I'm freaking out with the mute thing because you told me before that you could hear me through my mic. I'm sorry. It's a tough day.
Well, we want to hear you through your mic right now. So
Yes. Okay.
So,
So for hard money lenders, typically a couple things. One, I'm a big fan of local hard money lenders. Not saying there's anything wrong with the national ones. If you have to go national for some reason, there are some advantages, but there are a lot of great advantages to using a local hard money lender. One, they're going to be able to lay eyes on the property, which means they're going to be able to do a better job of evaluating the property. And if a hard money lender isn't willing to give you a loan and they know the area, it probably means it's probably not a good deal. So a hard money lender is going to be like your own, your very own personal underwriter that you don't have to pay for. When they say this isn't, I'm not going to lend on this, that's basically them saying this isn't a good deal. So listen to them. Number two, local hard money lenders typically will be able to, you can build a relationship. You get to know them, you meet them at meetups, you take them to lunch. When you have that relationship, just like with small local banks, once you have that relationship, they're going to be willing to do a lot more deals with you than they will just a nameless, faceless person that picks up the phone and calls them. So I'm a big fan of local hard money lenders. Also, typically their fees are going to be lower. They may have higher rates. They may have different terms, but typically they're going to have lower fees than national lenders. And it's a lot easier to get references on local hard money lenders because they've probably done work with other investors in the area. And if they're showing up to local real estate meetups or RIA meetings, they're not going to do that if they have a bad reputation. They've screwed over other investors in the area. So if you see a hard money lender show up to the meetings and nobody's like kicking him in the butt, they probably haven't screwed anybody in your area, and that's a good reference.
Yeah,
totally. Ask other investors. That's like one of the
Yep.
best ways to vet lenders, like period.
Yep.
Like ask them. And Bigger Pockets actually has a whole thing of being able to do that too. So you can check that out.
If you find a local hard money lender and you say to them, hey, do you go to the so-and-so meetup, and it's a big meetup, and they say, no, I don't go to that one, that's a red flag, because hard money lenders, that is where they get most of their business, at the meetups. And if they're not going to the meetups, then they've screwed people over in that market and they just don't want to be seen in public.
That's a big generalization.
I know it's not always going to be true, but it's,
if you're not networking, you're a crook. Like
yeah, okay. So a big generalization.
Let's say they just, let's
call it a yellow flag.
Poor loan officer.
Let's call it a yellow flag.
That poor loan officer that just got started in the business in the last 6 months. When
That's
there's been
different.
no meetups.
No, but a loan officer is different than a hard money lender. I didn't say a loan officer. I said hard money lender.
Sorry, back it up. They're LO for the hard money lender. There you go. There's whatever. I'm screwing with you, but at the same time, it was a big generalization. So, but there's great. I would personally, I have a lot of relationships with hard money lenders, just like you, Jay. I'm a big fan of the local ones, like you too. And I would encourage that, but ask around to other investors. And if you don't know any other investors, then that's also a challenge in your business. You should get to know other investors. And it's huge. It's huge in this business. All four of us are investors, and we're all friends, and we share information all the time, right? So it's a big part of the community, and it's going to help you basically propel your business big time. The more friends you have in the business, don't think about the competition. That's a limited belief, right? Brittany, you're friends with, actually, that's too, right? Actually, all you guys are friends with one of my buddies, James, here in Seattle, right? James Daynard. And he is technically competition. And we've been on houses where we're competing against each other. But I could pick up the phone and be like, bro, right? And we could talk. And if maybe I don't want that one, he's like, I'll get you on the next one, or vice versa. Like, it's a great relationship to be friends with these to other investors. Anyways, and then you can also vet out other contractors. You can vet out lenders, you can vet out like other investors and wholesalers. You can vet out all sorts of people the more friends you have. So
one thing I noticed with local hard money lender, they usually will give you a little bit better, higher ARV than the national, and then they're willing to actually do different structure with you because they actually are in the area. They know the comps, they know the market, and so they usually will stretch thing a little more than a national lender, guys. So local is way better.
Yeah, they're willing to take back the asset. They're a lot more comfortable taking back the asset if they have to.
Yes.
Well, you can also, sometimes these national lenders, which, no offense, I'm actually an advisor for one, but like sometimes the challenge is they go get appraisals or BPOs, broker price opinions, on a property from somebody, the lowest paid person, right? Especially if it's a no offense to brokers, but some of the brokers these days that are doing BPOs don't know what they're looking at. And they'll come back with a low value. So even though that hard money lender might do 90% loan to cost for the property, they're giving you a $200,000 value versus a local lender might go like, no, it's 240 because they know the area. So, and they might only do 80% loan to cost locally, but you're going to get more money out of them because they understand the property you're looking at. And versus a national might not at all. And then all of a sudden you're getting less, even though it's 90% loan to cost. So think through that too, and how they evaluate those properties. Some of them require full appraisals even, right? And that's, might as well just go to the local credit union if they require a full appraisal, in my opinion. But anyways, big topic. Let's go into some of these other questions. Do you guys have, Brittany, do you guys have home equity lines of credit or something similar to that in Canada?
Yeah, we use them all the time.
So here's a question. Perfect. So Jose is asking, thoughts on using a HELOC from your primary residence in order to buy rental properties? Brittany.
I would do it.
Primary residence, you live there. You
Right.
do it? All right.
Yeah, I mean,
Cool.
it depends. Like, what do you have in reserves? Because you don't want to like over leverage yourself. It's very important. So, I mean, I've taken HELOCs out quite a bit. Usually, like, we're really good at house hacking, so we'll like live kind of in spot. Like even this house, basement's rented. Like it's always covered in some way. The loan amount, everything we take out, we want to make sure that the rent payments, I mean, if you're living there though, I don't know. I probably would just, if I had the reserves, to make sure that's covered. But I've never done it on a principal, so it's kind of.
Well, this is definitely one of those what's that word? Controversial things as far as investors are concerned, whether or not you use your primary residence to leverage to buy other properties. So if that,
Right.
you were like, so what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think everybody done it. I done it. You know what I mean? You have a HELOC on your primary. One of the biggest mistake I made, you guys, was I used my HELOC on my primary residence in the past, and I did what I call project for long term. Long term meaning, say property I buy as a rental, or the property I'm gonna do new construction. It take 2-3 years out. And when that market change, you basically lose your money over here, and then you also put your own primary residence and your own family at risk. So the standard, I'm just gonna say to you guys, the standard is pay off your primary house. Do not mess with your home base. Have a line of credit on it, and if you find a good deal, use it to get in and get back out and put it back right away. Okay, that's the standard you should live by. And then you don't have the money to actually buy it for long term, don't mess with your primary residence. That's the standard. So do whatever it takes to get that to be your standard. Today, I have line of credit on my primary house. I'll buy a fixed property, and then I'll BRRRR it, and I'll get it back out. Or I'll buy it, fix and flip, but I will not use my primary line of credit to do any new construction ever again.
So that's your risk tolerance. It's all about investing. It's all about mitigating your own personal risk and what your tolerance is of it. And that's yours, right? You won't do long-term projects, but you'll do short-term with your equity line on your primary.
That's
so
right.
Jay, do you have anything you want to add to that, or are you good?
No, I mean, I have no problem doing it because I'm highly risk tolerant. I keep my total leverage in my life across all of my assets to around 50, definitely under 60%. I like the 50% number. So I'm not highly leveraged across my life in general because I sleep better at night by not being. It certainly means that I'm not going to be able to take advantage of some opportunities. It means that I'm going to miss some opportunities. It means that I'm not going to have any of the big wins because I tend to shy away from the big risks. But that's what works for me. And so everybody needs to determine what their own personal risk tolerance is. And if you're risk averse like I am, then either don't do that or make sure you have enough equity in other stuff that if in a worst case, you can always pay that off. And if you have a higher risk tolerance, then great. You'll probably have some big wins, but you need to accept that you might have some big losses as well.
And I think too, like getting started when you're younger, I don't have the overhead. I don't have kids and, the principal residence that I have to pay for. So it's like easier if there are younger people watching this, like get started as early as you can. And then you have that time too to like make those mistakes and like kind of, cause like for me, I don't feel, just cause I don't have the kids and the family to kind of worry about, it's just kind of my own personal. So I don't know, get started as early as you can. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's one of those natural things what you said, Brittany, is that like, I know when I was in my 20s, I was doing all sorts of crazy ass risk things in my life, as far as always working commission, never being, always being my own, but like stuff but if I had kids and a family during that time period, I might have thought differently. Looking back, I probably wouldn't have, but you can take more risks depending on where you are in your life. Right. And that's true fact, but it's true to everybody. Like Jay takes risks just like Thatch does, but we all have our own measure. We have some young people on our team that I'm like, you can go screw it up and start all over probably about 6 more times if you wanted to, right? So you're good to go. But do what's best for you. Nobody wants to start over, by the way. We're all afraid to make mistakes. We already talked about that. But what is it? Actually, a buddy of mine says, no risk, no goodies. Right? I always like that quote. No risk, no goodies. Like if you never take risks in your life, you'll never have any goodies. All right. So there's just answer this quick question really quick from Zach Keisha. My name's Tarl. People mess it up all the time. So if I mess up your name, I'm sorry. What is the BRRRR mathematical formula? We're not going to get into that today because on the last BRRRR episode we did on September 30th, which you can check out on our YouTube channel, Fixated Real Estate, or also on one of the videos here on the Bigger Pockets channel. We went into that in explicit detail on how to calculate that stuff out in more detail for you guys. We have, let's see. Let's do this one, right? Since we're on the lending topic, this is coming from Jack. He is stating most hard money lenders want to lend to an LLC. So if I purchased a property in an LLC and go to refinance to do a traditional refi, most traditional lenders don't want you to refi in an LLC. Do I switch title back into my name in order to refi to a traditional lender and then back to an LLC after I'm done refinancing? This is one of those topics that is controversial as well with how to do this. But I don't know who wants to answer it, right, when it comes to it. But Jay, are you with me on the question? You don't want to answer it?
Nope.
All right, I'll answer it the best I can, right, because I'm willing to take the risk. So I buy a lot of stuff in an entity. But some people are totally cool with their rentals being their personal name because maybe they have a whole bunch of insurance and they have umbrella policies and they're like, whatever, and they're good to go. But yes, traditional lenders will typically want you to have it in your personal name in order to refi, right? If you're super concerned about that, then go to a credit union portfolio lender and get like a commercial loan. They don't mind lending to an LLC. You might have a little bit higher interest rate, but you can keep it to an LLC. The other side is that, I've done the whole quick claim it back into my personal name to refi, right? Just to know is that once it's in your personal name, if you go to refinance it back and it's with a conventional loan, if you go to quick claim it back to an LLC after you refinance in your personal with a conventional loan, that can trigger the due on sale clause, which is where the lender could come back and say, you just switched entities without our permission and you now owe us the full amount of the loan. So that is a risk, right, that you have to determine on your own whether or not but that's in pretty much every conventional loan contract out there for deed of trust, everything. So just know that, and also know that if you get notified later because you did that, you have a chance to typically remedy that and put it back in your personal name. But
so
talk to an attorney, talk to your lender, talk to everybody like when it comes to that.
Yeah. So I was joking when I said, I was just going to say I was joking when I wasn't going to answer. I was about to answer and then you jumped in. I don't like that question. Too late. Because
I already answered it.
You did. The only thing I'll add is it's really important to know up front who your ultimate lender is going to be, who your long-term refinance lender is going to be, and how they're going to want you to hold the property. And you said this, I'm just repeating it, but if they're going to want you to hold it in your personal name, buy it in your personal name. If they're going to want you to hold it in an entity, buy it in an entity. Because there are too many gotchas when you try and play around with the lender and you try and play around with entities. And part of the reason I don't like this to answer this question is because there's so many situations. A good example is you buy something in an entity and you transfer it into your own name. You may think all you're doing is transferring ownership. You now may have triggered tax implications. And you don't want to find out that
Depending on how the entity is set up, yes.
depending on how the entity is set up, depending on whether you've added value by doing renovations on the project before you transferred it, depending on how the market's changed, you may have triggered some tax implications, and you just don't want to get to the end of the year and find out all I did was quit claim it from my entity to my personal name for a lender, but now I'm on the hook for $10,000 in taxes, because that changes the entire equation. So talk to an attorney, talk to your lender, talk to a CPA or an accountant.
CPA.
Yeah.
So I like to kind of walk this line of, how far do we give it legal advice kind of a thing.
I know this is the one question that
I'm
I
not
like
giving any
try to
legal
avoid.
advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not giving legal advice. I'm just giving you my opinion based on my own personal experience. Take it or leave it. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a law person whatsoever. I can barely read, but I can say this, that on my side is that here's a scenario to what Jay said, right? I'll just tell you a personal scenario, right? I buy my flips in an S corp, right? That's what I do, right? And I pay lower taxes for myself in that. I'm an employee of my own S corp. That's how I do it, right? But I buy my rentals in typically a disregarded entity, right? Or a holding company for my rentals. They're not the same. That's what I do, right? But that's because of tax-wise for how passive income comes in versus active income. Now, I have done in the past on accident, not knowing what Jay just said, where I buy an entity with my S corp and I go, oh, I want to keep this one. So I'm just going to transfer it over to my holding company, right? Well, essentially what happens as an S corp is that when I transfer that property to me, that is the corporation, which is its own entity, giving the owner of the company a house, right? That means that I, as the owner, could technically be taxed on capital gains because I just received a gift, practically, pretty much, right? Or I received a distribution from my S corp, right? And then transferring it to the holding company, right? So there's some weird stuff that can happen there if you don't do it right. That's why it's important to know if you're going to play that game, right? And talk to your asset attorney or talk to your CPA. You can talk to your CPA; they'll know for sure if they're a good CPA. If they don't know the answer to this, just like we said earlier about property managers, get a new CPA. They are definitely the wrong one for you, and they don't know real estate. But I don't know. I really like topics like this, but I could talk too much on it. Let's move on. All right. So what if you're buying, this is coming from Caroline. What if you're out of state buying rentals and want to do a rehab? Who is the most important person to make sure it works out? So you're buying a property out of state, but you want the rehab to be done. How do you manage, and who's the most important person on your team at that point? Who has done out of state?
Not me.
All right, Jay, you go.
So
Jay and I are the only ones that done out of state.
Yeah, I'm not sure people are going to like my answer, but the fact of the matter is you need somebody you trust on the ground to manage things. You either need a project manager, somebody that you employ. You need a family member or friend, somebody that can oversee things for you. You need a real estate agent, somebody that you're paying to kind of manage everything and check in a couple times a week. And I would say that maybe you could use a really trusted contractor. But the whole point of having somebody trusted on the ground is you don't always trust your contractors. So you need somebody there that at least a couple times a week can check in on the property, make sure things are going well. The other big thing is I've done a lot of out-of-state stuff. I've literally had to get on an airplane with 24 hours notice because my contractor called and said, yeah, we found something. And the biggest thing I could think of was we had a whole kitchen design, and it sounds like it shouldn't be a big deal. But we laid out a kitchen, we were moving some walls, and he called and he said, we're off by ½ inch and this isn't working. It's going to be a couple $1,000 like change order. And what do you want to do? And I had to get on an airplane and fly to Wisconsin to figure it out. So you need somebody that can handle emergencies like that, or even just annoyances like that, and somebody that can take pictures for you and just manage everything. If you don't have somebody like that, my take is you shouldn't be doing that either flip or rental property long distance. And then if it's going to be a rental property, and we're talking about BRRRRs here, make sure you have a property manager that is lined up that you like, because I've worked in areas where literally there are no good property managers. And I know that sounds crazy, but in big cities, I've worked in big cities where you cannot find a property manager that you can trust. So make sure you do that research on the front end as well.
Yeah, in some of the smaller cities, there might only be two, right?
Right.
And they do it on their off time, and they might not be the greatest, right?
Right. And they're managing for the 3 other investors there that they've known for a long time. And when a tenant comes along looking for a place, are they going to recommend your place or those investors that they've been working with for 20 years? So the small town, small property managers sound great, but they may not have alliances or allegiances to you.
So out-of-state investing, I think, is amazing. It is actually how I started, right? So we didn't do a local, I didn't say, oh, my first local flip. No, I had a partnership though, but we were out of state, right? Our first flips were out of state. But it comes back to, we had a lot of boots on the ground because we were doing stuff with Fannie Mae at the time. But I love what Jay said, like, get the property manager. Like, if you knew you had a property manager in advance, like, these are people you should find before you buy properties in an area, in my opinion, right? And same with Jay's. Go find the property manager if it's going to be a rental. Go find the realtor if it's going to be a flip, or both. The realtor that's helping you find the properties and the property manager helping you stabilize. Go on Bigger Pockets and say, hey, if I buy a property in this area, does anybody want to like drive it regularly and see cool construction stuff? You'll get like 50 people like to say, I'll drive it, right? And so how do you get people to drive it for free was always my question, like, that I wanted to figure out. Realtors, property managers, BP friends, aspiring wholesalers, right? All that kind of stuff. They all want to drive your properties because they want to see if Brittany right now said, who's in Saskatchewan, Canada, that wants to drive my properties for me, you'd probably get 1,000 people that don't even live in your town that would probably fly out just to go drive your properties. So believe it or not, you don't have to be Brittany to get that. You could just be somebody that's investing locally and have people that want to help out because they're super interested and want to learn. So anyway, just some tips on that. Okay, we're almost done, but we got a couple more questions. You guys got more time for a couple more questions?
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. Let's see. Thatch, like, for you, I know you only really hold rentals in the Seattle core area, but if you were going to look out of state, and don't think about Seattle right now, if you were to comprehend that there's something outside of the Seattle market, what kind of data would you be looking for to convince you to go into a new market somewhere?
Yeah, I would look at, since I'm a real estate agent, I will look at data to know, one, how is, like, for example, right now, we're doing stuff right now. We're doing a 100-unit apartment building right now in downtown Oakland, okay, Oakland, California. And so we look and see is how the real estate market in downtown Oakland or in the Oakland, the Bay Area, how much it has appreciated, in the last few years. I want to know the appreciation because I know I'm going to keep it for long term. I got to have appreciation. Then I want to know how the rent is. And I want to know how rent is doing right now. How has it been in the past? How much appreciation on rent has gone up year after year. In the Bay Area has gone up about 7% every year. And then, those are the 2 factors for me. I want to study the market on what the appreciation is, what the rent is, how high, how low it is, and what kind of appreciation the rent's been like for the last couple of years to give me a gauge on if that's a good market for rental area to keep for long term. And I can pretty much do that anywhere. But for me, you guys, Seattle is such a big city, and there's so much opportunity in Seattle. There's no reason for me to go anywhere else other than Seattle, because Seattle is a good place for appreciation, good high rent, and obviously, I know the area well, and I can find good deals over here all the time, and that's why I stay in the area.
Love it. Jay, can you give 2 data points that you would look at?
No, I can only give 3. I can only give 3. I have to give 3 because there's only 3 that matter. There's only 3 that matter.
Well, then give 3.
I'm going to give 3. Population growth, employment growth, wage growth. Those are the 3. Does it matter what the employment is? Yes. So that's number 4, but I didn't want to run the risk of you not letting me answer. So the 4th would be employment diversity. So population growth, employment growth, wage growth, employment diversity. So you want to see lots of different industries. You want to see lots of influx of people. You want to see job growth, lots of industries hiring, and you want to see wage growth. You want to see industries paying in that area going up, because those four things, or those three things, the three growth things, are the three things that are going to drive occupancy and market rents.
Mhm.
And those are the only two things you
Perfect.
care about as a landlord.
I care about my tenants.
Sure you do.
Nobody.
If you're getting high
Okay.
occupancy and high market and high rent growth, then that allows you to care very much about your tenants.
Like, I'm gonna give a shout out to my wife because she runs all of our stuff over there. She like trades pictures with our tenants. She's like, oh, this person had a baby. Like they're here. That she sends gifts to them. Like, so she cares. She really cares. So I don't want to know anything about them. But she absolutely. But that's why she's in charge of it and I'm not. Right? She does really like. She shows me photos. I'm like, who's that? Right? She's like, oh, that's the tenant at such and such. I'm like, cool, right? Are they paying their rent, right? So, but that's me, right? But that's why she's in charge of all of that. Anyways, that's the shout out to my wife. And if you know my wife Grace, you believe everything I'm saying. So, Ulysses is asking, I just got my first turnkey property, which we did a whole webinar with Nathan Brooks and Kathy Fecky on turnkey properties. You guys can check that out. First turnkey property. I want to BRRRR for my second, so going on number 2, but they want to do a BRRRR. Is it smart to spend my money on making my first property cash flow more, or should I save the money to acquire my second, hopefully a multifamily? Brittany, would you spend your money to make your first property cash flow more, or would you save it to put into another property, maybe even multi?
I'd probably save it and put it into the new property more.
Why?
I guess it depends. I guess it depends how much it is going to cash flow. Like, is that money going to be worth the return on investment? Like, how much more is it going to cash flow? I'd probably move it on into the next one, but I don't know. I guess it depends on that number more.
Yeah, if you put 20 grand into it and leave it in there, does it only give you a 4% return, right? Like it only increase your full cash flow to get you like another 4%. Then would that be worth it? Maybe not, right? And like that kind of thing. Versus like you could take that 20K and put it into another property and get a whole nother cash flowing door, right? Potentially. Right? Yes? Okay. Thatch, what would you do?
Yeah, I would say a couple of things. One, if it's turnkey, I'm assuming there's not much more you can do. You know, I mean, if you can finish the basement, for example, put some money in the basement, for example, what I do, get more bed and more bath, and I can get a ADU in the bottom, right? And to do that, I might not need that much money to do that. I can increase my cash flow on that. But if there's nothing else you can do to that property, right? Other than ride it out and let the rent rises, then save the cash and go buy yourself a BRRRR property, and only buy a BRRRR property to keep in the future, because you have instant equity and you have more net worth faster, and you can buy more property with less cash.
Perfect. I think that's good enough. So I think what the person was thinking, like they leave a larger down payment in reality, but I love what you said, Thatch, as well, and I love what you said, Brittany. Like Brittany, like, yeah, save the money, like go put it into something else. And Thatch is like, well, if you can add another door, maybe you can reinvest it, but it's already a turnkey. So it probably is already done, right? And you're probably not much you can do with it. I love it. Okay, so here we go. This is a tax question, right? Let's not, we all love tax questions. And I don't know how Canada tax works. So what are your favorite or undervalued, let's just say, what are some of the tax benefits that you can receive potentially from keeping rentals and BRRRRs over flips that maybe we don't talk about enough?
I guess with the passive income, like you're saying, you have your company for the active side, the flips, but then you're taxed so much lower on that passive like rental income. So just like talk to your accountant, make sure it's all set up, structured the right way, because you could save a ton of money if you, instead of like claiming that as personal income, you get taxed higher on it, your rental income. So if you have it in your corporation, it's taxed quite a bit lower. So just
you got active income, like you said.
Yeah.
Where that's like that's active income is like you're getting taxed at the highest that you can get taxed at, right? Is that the same in Canada?
Yeah, I think, like, I'm not good with the percentages. I don't know. But yeah, it definitely is. It's very high tax.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, versus passive income, it's a lower tax. So Thatch, what are your thoughts on like what are some of the tax benefits that you receive from keeping properties versus selling them?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I have earned income and I have passive income. So I still make a lot of money on earned income. And so I need stuff to write off so I can actually pay less on my earned income. So that's why I keep rental property, because I have something to write off to lower my earned income. So I pay less on that. And of course, the bottom line is that, man, why would you want to work so hard and flipping 20 years down the road, right? You paying taxes on all this flip, year after year, and that 20 year down the road, you got nothing to show for all your work. So you get the tax benefit, you get the net worth gain, you get the passive income gain, and you have the option to work or not work 20 year, 30 year down the road.
Love it. And essentially just have an amazing CPA that understands real estate, and they'll find all those tax benefits for you. And if they're the right CPA. But there's a word that Thatch didn't quite say. It starts with a D. Jay, you want to explain the tax benefit, the D word, when it comes to keeping real estate?
Depreciation. So three big tax benefits that the three biggest tax benefits are, depreciation. So one, whatever the value of the building is, you get to write that off every year, percentage of that off every year. Basically, it's a phantom deduction. It's not actually money that's coming out of your bank account, but you get to lower your income for it every year. Number two is when you go to sell that property, whatever gain you've made, like with a flip, let's say you buy a flip for $100,000, you sell it for $200,000. Let's say you made $100,000. Whatever. Let's say you made $100,000 on a flip, you're going to pay ordinary income tax on that. You're going to pay whatever your marginal rate is, 22% or 30% or 40%. But on a rental, you're going to pay capital gains tax. So if you hold it for over a year, you're going to pay 15 or 20% in tax, which is typically going to be less than your marginal tax bracket. And then number three is you may be able to put off having to pay any tax whatsoever on that sale for a long time by doing a 1031 exchange, basically selling the property, buying another property, and deferring taxes for some period of time. And can't do that with a flip or any other type of real estate.
That's right.
Yep. Love it. I interviewed Robert Kiyosaki a few weeks ago, and he was talking about how depreciation is the reason to invest in real estate. That's one of the things he was really mentioning. Because if you, especially if you're maybe real estate's not your full-time job, right? Maybe you make a bunch of money as a doctor, or your job, like you have a lot of income coming in, and you want to reduce your taxes. There are some people that invest in real estate specifically for the depreciation to reduce their active income tax, and so that they can do that as well. So like depending on where you are in your life, and that's actually one way to sometimes raise capital, is that you can help and build partnerships, is you can help people with money, accredited investors, to get a depreciation or a tax advantage by investing with you as well. So there's people that do that all the time out there. So it's a big factor actually. Okay, so we are wrapping up. Here's a quick question. I like that Victor just asked it. Where do you guys find your CPAs? Or if I had to go source a CPA, which in my opinion, my bookkeeper, my CPA, and my tax and my attorney are like three of my most, for me, where I'm at right now, three of my most favorite people on my team, right? For me personally. But where would you guys encourage people that don't know how to find a good CPA for real estate? What would you guys recommend?
For me, I asked some of my good friend that does the same thing what I do, that I respect highly, and they done well with their money. I get referral from them.
Yeah, I do the same. Like I just always, and that's what's cool about having Instagram. It's like, hey guys, give me a recommendation. Actually, I'm looking for a bookkeeper now, so if anyone knows, we need a new bookkeeper. So, but yeah, I just always ask my network, and it's very, very handy to have the Instagram following I do. And then you guys go to those meetups, meet as many people as you can, and find them that way. That's all I've ever done.
Jay?
Yeah, be willing to pay for a good accountant. A good accountant or CPA is going to cost some money. People get freaked out when they see that a good CPA or accountant is going to cost in the $1,000 to $10,000 range per year. And I don't know what that Charles just said, but I agree. Yeah, it's going to cost money, and you should be willing to pay that, because typically a good accountant or CPA, if you're not just working a W-2 job, if you're self-employed and an investor, that person is going to be able to save you more than whatever you pay them.
Absolutely. And if they're not, then don't pay them that.
Exactly.
For it's so true. It's like, it's as an investor, we all want like the cheapest thing, right? Like as much as most of us do, at least. Like, how can I get that? Oh, that's too much. My tax return is $3,000 for just one of my entities, right? And my personal, and like, it just starts to add up as you start going into it. But if that CPA knows their stuff, and they also helped you out through all the years, throughout the year, where if you're making 200K or 300K on your properties or whatever, like if you don't have a good CPA, that can cost you a ton of money in taxes, like a ton. And so, so what if it costs $3,000 then to file, or 10 if they saved you 40 in taxes or whatever, right? So good ones are totally worth it. Totally.
Right at the beginning too.
Just
like, set it up straight off the bat.
Yeah. Just start finding them, right? And because I will say from personal experience that if you don't set up your stuff right in the beginning as you go, sooner or later you're gonna have to pay to get it set up right. And meaning like your bookkeeping and your accounting, the sooner you do that, the less painful it's going to be when you got to go fix it later. So, because it can be very expensive. But all right, let's see. One more question you guys want? Jay, do you have any questions you want to ask? And we wrap up.
That I want to ask, or in the question list. Let's see.
Sure, go for it. Your turn.
Is there a specific type of area that you target versus avoid? For example, class A, B, C. Please explain. Thanks. Okay, I will explain, and you are welcome. Typically, this is going to be a personal choice. So class A areas obviously have their benefits. They are going to, they're going to command higher rent. Typically, you're going to have better tenants, maybe longer term tenants. But they also have their downsides. As you go up in class, you're going to find that you're paying more for finishes. You're probably paying more for repairs, because typically these are houses that are larger, maybe newer, which I guess newer is good, but then when things start to wear out, you're gonna pay more. Class B and C typically are going to be less to repair, less for fixtures, but you may not get as good tenants. One thing I'll say is, given where we are in the economic cycle, typically, if you think that we're heading towards a softer real estate market, typically what we see is higher compression or change in market rents in the Class A and B plus type inventory. So if you own Class A, you're probably going to see rents drop more than if you own Class B or Class C during a downturn. That said, typically Class B is pretty resilient. Class C tends to be very resilient. And so it's really more of a personal choice thing. I would say look at the areas you want to own property, and if you own C-class property, you may make a little bit more money, but it's going to come with a little bit more headaches. So that's the other thing to keep in mind.
Yeah.
So one last question for Brittany. So Brittany, do you have any advice for our Canada audience and whatnot when it comes to investing in real estate right now?
For the Canada audience, well, it's so different. Lots of people in Canada are like, oh, it's so expensive, because so many people are in that GTA Toronto market or the Vancouver. So, I mean, there are other areas in Canada that are a lot cheaper and more affordable to get into that still have good rents, like where I'm at. Like the prices are way lower and the rents are still great, and there's still lots of people working here. So just kind of diversify maybe, because like those areas could be amazing too. I know a lot of investors in the Toronto area that do incredibly well, and the appreciation is awesome. We don't have that appreciation here, but we have the cash flow, which is what I wanted when I got into real estate. So it worked out for me here, but you can make it work just in different areas. Just like lots of people think it is hard. It's hard to get the financing and everything in Canada, but there's always a way to make it work. Just have to like really, really try.
Awesome. Yeah. And I like to say, look outside your area, like your immediate circle sometimes. And like Thatch in our area, isn't this true? You'll meet people that are in like a little area called Bellevue or Kirkland or Redmond in Seattle area, and they're like, they don't realize that if they just drive 30 minutes south, there's another area they can invest in. They're like, I want to invest in this area. And like, okay, cool. That's a $1.8 million investment then. Like if you're going to be in that area, well, I can only afford a $400,000 house. Where can I find that in?
Right.
You can't. You got to go drive 30 minutes, right? So, but it's look outside of your particular area if it's too expensive, potentially.
Yeah.
Right. So, any last thoughts from you, Thatch?
Hey, all I want to say is that if you're going to work hard, set yourself up so you have the option to work or have the option not to work when you get older. Okay. When you get older, you have kids and everything. You want to spend time with them. You want to travel and you want to set yourself up so you have the option to work or not work when you get older. So be smart, work hard now, but also think long term, set yourself up so that you have the option to work or not work when you get to 50 years old. Got it?
Perfect. Last thoughts, Jay?
I still have a few months then before I have to make that decision. And when I hit 50, let's see, last thoughts. Like that's just implied, start buying property now. I know it's cliche, but everybody says best time to buy property was last month or last year. Second best time is right now. So, go start doing it.
We should do a whole, yeah, there's so much on that. We had a bunch of webinars earlier this year is like, should we buy property right now? And I'm sure that's thinking through people's heads right now as well.
And when I say right now, I mean always be
that's
looking.
Too long of a topic.
No, always be looking, always be ready to pull the trigger. Doesn't mean you have to today, but be ready and willing to if the right deal comes along.
My last piece of advice is be sure to follow Jay Scott on Instagram so he can get over 10,000 followers.
Let me see where we got to.
See where he's at on that. So that's the only reason why he does this is for his ego.
I'm still 100 off.
So help him out. 100 off. You guys can do it. Go Jay Scott. All right. So Brittany's gonna help you right now. So
yeah,
I'm gonna post it.
yeah.
You'll spike. Don't worry. All right, guys. Hey, I'm so excited that you guys joined us again for BRRRR Round 2. I'm sure we'll do a Round 3 eventually. It's not gonna be next week, and we'll continue to go with this awesome panel. And if you guys check us out every week, Fixated on Real Estate, we definitely will continue doing these webinars. And look out for the announcement for next week's webinar. You can follow it on YouTube as well for past videos on the Fixated Real Estate site. Make sure you guys continue to check out Bigger Pockets and everything Bigger Pockets does. We love them. And of course, Brittany, where can they follow you or get a hold of you?
Instagram at InvestorGirlBrit. And then eventually YouTube.
And Mr. Thatch Nguyen.
And then for
eventually YouTube, that's right.
My Instagram is just Thatch Win, you guys. Awesome.
And Mr. Jay Scott.
My Instagram and they're rolling in. They are rolling in now. JScott_123flip, or feel free to send me an email, j@jscott.com.
Sweet.
And I am Tarl Yarber. You can follow me at Tarl Yarber, as well as my company Fixated Real Estate on Facebook and Instagram, and hit us up there anytime. So we will eventually get back to you. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you all, and we will see you guys eventually in the future.
All right, everybody. Today.